Hey guys, alrighty. I'm gonna try to make this quick because I actually had like a 10-minute talkie of just rambling on the problems that I have with this truck. So we're in the shop, as always. We're in the shop. I have been whipping out the Econoline sheet metal lately, and don't mind the hole in my shirt. And I'm ahead by that much. Actually, none. I'm not ahead at all, but I am a few dollars ahead, comfortable enough that I feel like bringing my own stuff into the shop. We're going to discuss a few things on this truck. We're going to go over a few things on this truck, and we're going to change a few things on this truck because I've been driving it the whole summer. I enjoyed it tremendously the whole summer, and I hated it tremendously the whole summer. And a lot of that was the stance, the drivability. It now has a hurt transmission. Oops. You know, the inability to drive it at night. It still has no headlights, no taillights, no brake lights, nothing. It has no inner fenders, so you can't even risk driving it down a nasty road or going anywhere with more than a 5% chance of rain for the area. So that is a big problem. It's been running pretty well. It's a little rich. It could use a little more fine tuning, but I'm very indecisive and I'm very short on money. So fixing those problems is a little bit harder than it is for the average guy, especially trying to run this little tiny business. All of my money has to go towards making sure I can stay on top of material costs. That being said, the rear of this truck is step notched. We were going to lower this truck for a while. That is expensive. That got expensive very quick. And then I kind of realized I don't know what I want to do with this thing. I don't know what direction I want this truck to go in. I want a gasser so bad. I grew up driving straight axle trucks. Most people my age or younger have never driven a straight axle truck, and the old trucks they are familiar with, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, that's still a twin I-beam truck. That still drives. If it's been well maintained or if it's been upkept, it still drives like a modern truck. This does not drive like a modern truck. This is why our grandfathers had Popeye arms. And that's a lot to get used to. You know, driving this thing is a two-handed experience. And there's just a lot. I've maybe 5 days that I'm going to let this thing set in here. Maybe 5 days. I might go over that a little bit. There's so much I want to do to just try and keep making this thing better. Those of you who are not familiar, this is my 1963 Ford F100 that I bought when I was 17. I am now 28. Do the math. That is my first truck. And I'm trying to get it back on the road better and better and better. It's been in the shop quite a few times. I enjoyed it, like I said, all summer, and I hated it all summer. It's been step notched in the rear quite heavily to get the rear end down pretty low. We were going through different ideas to get the front end down just as low, and those ideas all exceeded my expense capabilities. So Crown Vic is an option. There's issues with that. QA1 is an option. Expense is the problem there. Not to shit on those guys any or crap on those guys. But that's just an unobtainable option for me currently, not with the price that they are. It's got a hurt transmission. I think I mentioned that already. Where you have another transmission, we're going to go ahead, clean up, throw some seals in it, check some bearings. It looks really, really nice. It's in great condition. We're just going to swap this one out and throw it in, rebuild this one, and put it in our other truck. So that kind of all wins those issues. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to get to work. I'm going to show you guys what I'm doing. Day 2. I did not shoot anything from day 1 because it was unfortunately just undoing a bunch of stuff. Got the exhaust pulled off. I'm going to go through and try to clean a few spots up on this. Try to repaint a couple of these welds in the bracket. And these were the shocks that were on the back of this truck. I'll show you a little bit more once I go to put the new ones on. These are like the front of your Model A or the rear of your heavy-duty golf cart. They compress to 4 or to 8 inches, and look, that one is already almost completely blown out. This one is still fairly solid, but this bad boy here, blown out. So you can actually see where the bushings are bent oblong. That one's worse. Where the truck was bottoming them out. Actually, it almost looks like the head on this one's cracked, maybe. I'm not sure. There's even some witness marks where they've been hitting. So I knew kind of going in, that was just not going to be good. The rear of the truck was so low, and I did not have enough time to create something better. But I gotta say, no more doggy stance. This thing's setting back up in the air, level all the way around. And I know that's kind of going backwards, but it actually looks right again. So I just got the rear end setting underneath there. It's bolted in. I got the pinion angle set last night. I got the spacing side to side set, and I got the perches tacked in. I'm going to get the bed lifted back off. We're going to go around and talk about a few different things. I'll show you the new shocks I've got up there and which ones I might go with. And we're going to get the axle back out, give it a good wash down really well, get the perches welded on all the way, and then go back through and weld the perches. Let me rephrase that. Weld the perches on all the way, clean it up, give the whole thing a little bit of a touch-up paint job, and then get the thing wheeled back underneath the truck. Now, while that is out from underneath the truck, I may try to go ahead and start addressing some other things. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more here in just a minute. We're going to try to do some inner fenders while we're here. We're going to try to button up a little bit of rust that's in the cab. There is no fixing the rust on this cab, and I will show you in depth the rust that this cab has. For those people that say, well, you're a metal guy, why can't you fix it? Well, in the time that I'm allotted until I get my own shop up, I will show you why there's no fixing this cab. And there's no fixing this cab on a reasonable budget or just for reason in general. I mean, when you see the bottom of this cab, you'll understand why. So, going to show you that, but I am so happy this thing does not have the drag and butt stance anymore. It's going to look good. It's going to feel better driving. And I'm just happy about that. So I'm going to get into it, going to get the bed off, going to get going again. Alrighty, so got the other perches welded on. I'll weld it in. And yeah, I left the bottom ones there. I figured, you know what? I can almost drill into the bottom ones and use them for a traction device or something of that nature, and it gives me a big pad that's already available. That, and this is an 8.8 rear end out of an 84 F150. Now, it has been rebuilt. It has pretty low miles on it since being rebuilt. It has all brand new brakes and drums and all of that stuff. And I went ahead and just touched up the whole thing and painted it from one end to the other. But it is 3 inches wider than the factory 8.8 rear end that would have been in this truck. And that does create some problems. It's a little hard to get wide wheels up into the fender wells and just things like that. I didn't figure it was even worth the time cutting the ones off the bottom. So I left them on there. They can, like I said, either be used for a mounting point for a traction device, or they can just stay on there forever, because eventually I would like to put a little bit of a narrower 9-inch rear end in this thing. Changing the gear ratios in these is not exactly just clean and cut. You know, you do have to pull it completely apart. You have to do shimming. You have to do all that stuff. Whereas you can just buy a center section or have several center sections for a 9-inch. So I went ahead and got a few things sort of just repainted underneath that I couldn't, that I never got to. There was some rust on the bottoms of these tubings, pieces of tubing that I wanted to fix up. So I went ahead and did that. Okay, so I got the rear end all done. I showed you that. I'm letting it dry up, which I think I've just covered it in dust at this point anyway from all my grinding and stuff. But it is back there. It is drying up, and I am moving on to inner fenders. So this is what I have got so far. We have made us a small piece, took us a little section about 2 inches wide, laid it up through there with some clamps, got a good straight line through here, drilled some holes, got some stainless 1/4-20 Phillips heads through here. And then we went through and we traced this out a piece, got it all cut out, put a brake in it, and that brake is going to follow this right here, straight down. So now we're going to work on making this panel. We're going to make it in 2 pieces, roll some beads into it, stuff like that. And we'll drill through here, probably put some little crimp-in inserts. I may spot weld it together on the top. I'm not sure. Probably going to put a few crimp-in inserts and put some pieces in there. That way, if I want to pull the fender off, all I've got to do is unscrew it right there and the fender will come off and I can leave that on. I don't know if I'm going to spot weld it together in the middle. I may try to cut it out and do it out of one piece, although that's just a lot to mess up if something happens. It's a big piece of metal to try to finagle in and out. And I don't want to be taking the fender on and off and on and off and on and off. I know the fender is going to have to come off anyway to get this whole thing back in there in one piece after it's all painted, so I don't scratch it all up. But I would rather keep everything tight. I want to keep all the lines where they're supposed to be while I'm building it. So I'm going to build it in probably 2 more pieces. It's going to have a couple of tabs that probably drill. I'll drill and tap the frame. Those tabs will come up. The panel will go up again. It'll either lay on it or go up against it. And I'll put some more crimp-in inserts there. That is the plan. We've also got to make a filler piece for the front of this. I will do that once the inner fender is all in. The fenders are back on. When I go to take the fenders off to slide the inner fenders in, I will make the filler piece for here. So got to make a little filler piece for there. And I have been taking all of the pieces I make for that side, scribing them out and cutting them out for the other side. This side is going to be a lot more difficult, obviously, getting around turbo stuff and etc., etc. So going to do this side a hair different. But either way, that is where we are so far. Alrighty. Moving along. Got me a little bead rolled in there. Now I'm not putting a fender well hump in this because this thing actually sits really tall. I do, however, have a solution as to if I have to come back and I have to make a cut and I have to add one. So I have kind of already got that planned out if need be, if necessary. And it's not something that I'm afraid is going to look like an afterthought. So that is sort of planned out. Right now, they're just going to come straight down and turn and go to the frame rail. They're going to kind of come around the shock. Not quite the original recipe, but I think that's going to work just fine. I'm wanting to follow this line right here, and I think that's going to work. I think that's going to work perfect. That also helps me keep the 2 sides symmetrical, and it keeps that side sneaking under a lot of the turbo and exhaust stuff. There's still quite a bit of clearance. Heck, I bet there's 6 inches or so between the farthest corner of the tire and the panel. And I think, you know, even hitting a bump or something pretty hard, that's still going to keep me out of it. But again, if I do have an issue, I already have a solution as to how I would cut and add without totally wrecking the aesthetics of the inner fender. But pretty simple, not really going for anything whole crazy. Got some crimp-in inserts in there. I like the stainless screws. I think it kind of gives it an airplane look. And I'm working on getting this other piece made here. It's going to kind of slide down in there. I got to cut it out a little more and keep trimming till I like the way this fits, and then I will transfer that to some metal and I'll trim it till it fits nice. Okay, so I've got this bottom piece in here. I have not rolled any lines in it. I've got a good break on it to where it fits up against the... I've just got it sitting in there right now. I am having trouble whether I hate these or I like them. I don't know. I feel like they're a little bland. You know, then this will have a filled in piece right here. There's plenty of room to the tire. I actually really like it because there's not a big like tire mound right here that I have to like get over to work on stuff. It's like it's super easily to access everything still, but I just don't know. I almost hate it now. I don't know if I love it or not. Obviously it's very plain Jane and simple. It's not meant to be overly I don't think I need to reinvent the wheel on some inner fenders here, but I don't know if I love them. Maybe once both sides are in and they're like painted or primered or something. I'm gonna get the bottom one out. I'm gonna get the beads rolled in it, get it in, and we'll go from there. I kind of moved some of the plastic out of the way so that I could get sort of like more of a visual. I guess the only other thing I could have done was put a brake in them and bring them over and down again. But again, that just gives you like so much to have to lean over to work on stuff. I feel like this still gives plenty of room, I think. Like, I just feel like this just still gives you a lot of space. If I ever put a V8 in this truck, which I'm not against at all, I feel like this gives me a lot of room to get around, run headers out the fender, whatever. So I'm gonna keep going with them. I'm just having my doubts with them. Okay, so what I did get done, I guess I don't always need to start every video with okay. What I did get done is the rear end back underneath the truck. Make sure I didn't run my new fuel tank in one of those stands. I didn't. It's got the shocks and everything all mounted up. It's kind of funny. They are for an F-150, and they have like another 5 inches of travel down. And I've compressed them probably 2 or 3 inches. It's just funny how like huge they look on here. But rear end's all in. Everything's all tight. Repainted and cleaned up. Went ahead and rolled the truck backwards. And again, I'm kind of having my doubts on these. I did get, let me see if I can get a better light in here. Okay, that's better. So I did get some beads rolled in the bottom, and I actually think I like it a little bit more now that there's some shape in the bottom. So there is a lap that's been rolled into that, kind of similar to this, so that they'll be flush. There's probably going to be more of these stainless Allens down through there, and then this bends and tucks right down tight next to the frame rail. So I'll be able to go back. I'll weld a couple of tabs on that'll go down next to the frame rail. I'll probably just drill and tap and put 5 fasteners or so that will attach to that. I am debating on whether I want to. I don't actually really want to attach it to the frame rail down there because the truck is going to flex. So I may do something a little different. It'll be attached up here. I may make a brace that goes across the back there. Something, because obviously just attaching it to the frame rail is not a great idea. But we'll see. We'll see what I do. I may have to attach it in a way with maybe a rubber bushing or something. I can do that. I can attach it with rubber bushings and a little stud, a little 1/4-20 stud or something. That way it can kind of move around, but it also doesn't make that oil can noise. Not quite sure yet what I'm going to do on that. And I probably am not going to build any cover for the shock. Probably just leave it sticking through there. I don't know. We'll see if I get creative to do that. But it's not bad. It's not bad. You can reach through. You've got access to work on everything. The shock or the inner fenders are not in your way. So we'll I think we'll stick with it. I'm actually pretty satisfied with them. And you know what? I can redo any part of it I want. I can reuse the top. You know, I could put another brake in this sheet, come out. I can do whatever I want. That's kind of why I'm also thinking about how I want to fasten it to the body, or to the, you know, to the bottom of it, because I often like to change my mind. So we're just gonna see. We're gonna see what happens. All right, so there it is, all screwed together. I have got crimp-in inserts, which I love these things. Got those in there. I went ahead and rolled a recession. Probably could have tried to get it a little bit deeper, but either way, got those in. Now I love these little stainless Allen heads. Or button heads, I guess you could call them. I think they give it kind of an aeromotive, aircraft kind of look. And as much as I don't know anything about it, I love the styling of it. And then we've also got them across the top here. So I am probably going to put this back in, get it fitting well. What I would like to do here, and I think this is the best route, I think I'm going to create a brace, a heavier duty brace. Probably going to take something like this. And I'm going to fold this into a U shape. It'll be more of a squared shape, like a brace, like you would typically see under the fenders or under the beds of one of these trucks. And I'm going to fold that into a shape. I am going to come somewhere along the lines of there, and probably somewhere along the lines of there. And I'm going to put a few. It's probably going to come down as well here, down below. Something of that nature to keep this thing to keep it taut, because there's obviously not a lot of shape to it, a lot of roundness. We don't want it flexing and vibrating in there. I'm probably going to take it all back apart. I'm going to assemble it once again in the truck. I've got a few areas to come through and kind of shape. Get rid of this little edge here. Get rid of that little overhang. I got a little treatment to do right here. Other than that, put it all back in the truck one more time. Get it all bolted together. And then decide how I'm going to start fastening it. I will add a little side note here. Now, if someone who was actually good at this really thought it out, they would think to themselves, okay, I got a brace going through here, and I got a brace going through here. They would add the crimp-in insert to the brace, and they would hide it. They would disguise it from here to here to here. That's what the smart person would do. Same with, let's say right here. They would run that brace from here to there to there. And then they wouldn't have to do any of that stuff. They wouldn't have to, they wouldn't have to go back and mess with any of that stuff. So that is what a smart person would do. Now, I could still do that. I could still go back on this one, and here. And I can go back and I can grind that crimp-in insert out. And I can grind this crimp-in insert out. And then I would have to grind this one along with, I think that's very tight. There it is. Along with that one back there. I can grind those out. And then I can add the crimp-in insert into my brace. That may be what happens, because this one is actually loose. It did not crimp in very well. Ironically enough, these are all crimped in pretty tight. So that may actually be what I do. I may go back. I'll probably pull the whole thing out, all these pieces, bolt them all together, make my brace. That gives me a good straight shot from there all the way down to the frame. And then if I go third from the back, also gives me a pretty straight shot down to the frame. So I probably will end up doing that. That would just make more sense to me instead of adding a bunch of points down there, etc., etc. So I'm going to go second. I got to take this one out, and I'll go third from the back. I may go second from the back. Unfortunately, I think second from the back pretty much falls right in this area, which is going to be a little difficult to get a bracket in. So I will move it to the third. And I'm going to think about it a little more. Like I said, someone who was actually good at this, they would really take the time to plan all that stuff out. I'm going to take this apart, put it all together back in the truck. Then I'm going to take it all apart there, bring it back over here, and make the braces. I think I'm going to end up going there, which that bolt hole don't quite line up. And there. That just seems like the smarter choice to me. So I'm going to do that. And I think we'll be good to go after that. Alrighty. Just finished up this other inner fender. Got it all in place. Got a little downpipe clearance area back there. Got plenty of clearance. I know it doesn't look like much, but you can fit a whole hand in there. This thing's got brand new motor mounts in it, so it don't bounce around a whole lot. Plenty of clearance down there. And if it doesn't, then I can always pull this middle piece out and make a little bit. So not really worried about that. I'm going to pull the grill out now. And after we pull the grill out, I got to go through here and put a clamp and drill through from the bottom and put a few bolts in there. Scribe a few lines. I'm going to try to make these front covers tonight. I'm going to try to get everything primered tonight. So that is the plan. There they are. Alright, I got the front pieces on. That fills the engine bay completely in. I drilled and tapped all of these. They're all 10/32. Closes this all in completely. So, engine bay is finished up. This one kind of flashing up on me just a little bit, but I was hoping to have all this bare metal stuff out tonight and primered, but if I don't go home and get some sleep, I'm going to be no good tomorrow. Alright, I got all the panels all primered up, front and back. Everybody said I should clear coat them, and I kind of agreed with them. That would have looked really cool under that thing if it was all clear coated. I never really have luck with clear coat. It seems like I can never apply it right. So I would have got it all put back together, and then a month later, it would have been flash rusted terribly. So here they all are. Got the back sides all done. So now we wait. It says about 4 hours before, you know, I want to start worrying about putting anything over it. So the only thing I'm kind of worried about was I grabbed a filler primer instead of just like an epoxy primer, like a sealer. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see if I need to go over it and kind of wipe it down, knock some of the high build off of it. But either way, we'll see how it goes. I have got to say that this completely assembled has totally transformed the engine bay of this truck. I know the only thing missing would be like a matte black firewall, but man, I am super happy with how these turned out. Everything fits nice and tight all up against the frame. Perfect. Man, so happy. So happy with how it all turned out. As I said before, I got plenty of tire clearance down below, at least for how I drive this truck. You know, if it had a bigger tire, or if it was setting a lot lower, it would be an issue, but this thing's got plenty of room under there. So, plenty of room in there. And then when I go to do my like headlight wiring and all that stuff, it can run down and along the bottom and up with that stuff. I can mount whatever I want to these, ignition stuff or whatever, but man, super happy. I did take the hood off because I have got to repair one of the hinges. The whole like area where the hinge bracket, where the hinge like bolts to, actually rotted out and the like whole hinge broke off. So I got to repair that, but could not be happier with how this went. I'm going to try to clean up around the grill and stuff, put the grill all back in. I'm going to try to go through and put a little bit of nicer hardware in the grill. Yeah, get the bumper put back on. I'm going to jump to, like I said before, doing the brake lines. I want to get the bed back on, get all that stuff back on. That way all I have to do is the hood. I'll have to do the transmission and stuff after this little car show we're trying to get to, because unfortunately, those parts are not going to be in until like 2 or 3 days after. So it can come back over here and I can do all that stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to, I think I run the hood across that thing. Anyway, yeah, there it is. Man, I love that. There's a little bit of what it looks like underneath. Got plenty of room back there for my exhaust to dump out. This side over here. See, I got plenty of room under there, and even full lock, there's still quite a bit of room, so I'm not too worried about that. I may have taken this a bit farther than I intended. So I took that old grill off. I spent hours today scrubbing, sanding, wire wheeling. I'm tired of the front of this thing looking like crap. Underneath the hood looks good now. I got the bed back on. I got all the rear brake line stuff all done. I want the front end of this thing to look good again. So I got her primered. We're going to lay on some, let me see here. I know it's white, but which white is it? I don't know. We're going to find out. It's not a gloss white. It's sort of a flat white. That was all they had. And that's what it's going to happen. Here it is. All finished up. At least for this trip anyway. So, the white. I'm super happy with how that turned out. It's actually almost blindingly white. I was going to make some little covers, but I wasn't worried about that right now. It looks so good with the inner fenders all in it and done. Come get a good close-up of that, baby. Eventually, I'm going to build an air box up here that actually runs the filter for the turbo, but for now, that's perfectly fine. I'm happy with that. I fixed the hood over here, so check this out. If anyone remembers paying close enough attention before, the hood has always been a disaster, but look at that. Perfect body line gap over here. Closes right the first time, every time now. Now, I did put the hood on by myself, so tomorrow I'm going to try to get a little bit of a help to fix this gap up a little bit. But other than that, I fixed the stance. I showed you guys that stuff. It now is like setting like a proper pickup. Even though I'm never going to use it to actually haul anything, it's still setting like it should. And I got to say, other than that very tired transmission that I've been talking about repeatedly that I've got to get changed, I like it so much better. I hit every bump in town when I brought it back a while ago, trying to test it out, and smooth as could be. So, yeah, that's it. Tomorrow I'll get some videos and some shots of it down at the car show, and I'll finish this video up there. Okay, alrighty. Well, we made it to the 2025 Door Goes Pink car show, and everything's clearing out now. Show's kind of over, but we got a $300 pinstriping deal. That was pretty cool. We won in the raffle and a $50 gas card. So I think we're going to take this thing and have some door logos put on it for the shop. Kind of give it the shop truck vibes and stuff. Got Gramps' Jeep over there. Left it dirty today because he couldn't get to the car show or the car wash. So he got more looks dirty than he did clean anyway. But had a couple cool pickups and stuff here. Cool raffle and stuff. So it was a pretty good time. So thanks for watching.